Jai Shri Radhe, so Vaishnav Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing on day number 106, the story of the Gaudiya Brahmin who lived in Vraja, Varta number 82. Prakash. This is a devotee of sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, the name is Morasiri. She manifests from Prakasika and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. She was born here as a Brahmin in the Gaudiya region, Bengal, and when he grew up, he went to Vraja to complete the tour of the Holy Land. He had the holy site of Sri Vrindavan Dham, and he was immediately strongly attracted to the place. He never left Vrindavan to go anywhere else after that. There were lots of Gaudiyas in Vrindavan. He lived by serving the local residents, the Brajavasis. Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji had come to Vrindavan, the Gaudiya had the wish to go to him and be initiated. With this in mind, he approached Sri Gosaiji, and when the opportunity arose, he asked him to initiate him with the Lord's name. Sri Gosaiji asked him who he was, to which he replied, "I am from Bengal, and I am a Gaudiya Brahmin. O Maharaj, please let me be initiated with the Lord's name by you, so that I might secure a good fate with your blessings." Sri Gosaiji said, "Yes, you will attain a good fate. However, if you wear your tulsi malas on your forehead mark to work as a labourer, then everyone will hire you because you are a Vaishnava. They will give you alms because you are a Vaishnava, and if you sell grass or wood, people will buy from you knowing you to be a Vaishnava. Thus you will have sold your Vaishnava status. Therefore it is better if you stay as you are." The Gaudiya stood with folded hands before Sri Gosaiji. "O Maharaj, I will never let anyone see my beads, and I shall apply my forehead mark with water. I will not let anyone see symbols of my Vaishnavahood." Hearing this, Sri Gosaiji was pleased and initiated him with the Lord's name. With even more grace, he also granted him Brahmasambandh. He gave him a prasadi cloth of Sri Navaneet Priyaji to serve. Thus, that Gaudiya's every last wish was satisfied. He developed into a great Vaishnava. He served Sri Thakurji with all his heart and soul. He made his seva so lovingly that it was not long before Sri Thakurji let him have the experience of his direct presence. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that one should never display the signs of one's Vaishnava status in order to beg alms or get work for earning one's living. Thus concludes Varta 8, the story of the Gaudiya Brahmin who was recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. Sri Thakurji himself blessed him by speaking directly to him. Thus there is no real end to his tale. Continuing with Varta 83, the story of one Kshatrani lady from the east, Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, her name is Angana. She is a Sakhi of Sri Yashodaji. She loves Sri Thakurji as if he were her child. Sri Yashodaji is always pleased with her. She manifests from Rasa Prakasini and is thus a form of her divine loving mood. She was born into a Kshatriya family who lived in a village about 10 miles from Varanasi. She was married off to a boy of the same caste when she was only 8. Not long after, smallpox infected the village, and her mother-in-law, father-in-law, and her husband all died. She was at home alone and did nothing but cry bitterly. She neither ate nor drank. One Vaishnava had his house near hers. He could not bear to see this Kshatrani so sad, and he said to her, "O sister, what will you gain by crying? It must have been the Lord's wish. From now on you should serve Sri Thakurji, you will become very happy." The Kshatrani said that she knew nothing about serving the Lord, and so the Vaishnava advised her to go to Adel and be initiated as Sri Gosaiji's disciple. Sri Gosaiji will teach you all about Seva. He will grant you a Sri Thakurji to serve. When you serve him, your sadness will disappear. You will be filled with bliss. The Lord is very kind and will solve your problems. Kshatrani went to Adel and became Sri Gosaiji's disciple. She requested him to grant her one Sri Thakurji to serve. She said, "I am alone at home. I don't know how to pass the time." Sri Gosaiji gave her a Sri Thakurji and taught her the ways of Seva. He gave her a Swarupa of child Krishna and taught her everything about serving him. Sri Gosaiji told her, "Serve him as if he is your child. Serve him with care. He will give you much joy." She then took him home with her. She was a very accomplished Vaishnava. Part 1. That girl was truly alone. She had no relatives. She served Sri Thakurji most lovingly in her home. She spoke to him just as if he were a child in the world. She always felt a little confused and lost, but made up for it with her very loving seva to her Sri Thakurji. She would call out to him just as any mother would call her child. He also behaved with her just as if he were truly her son. If she ever had to go out, she would say to him, "Oh, Lalji Maharaj, I have to go out for some task. You can eat anything you like in the house, and you've got water in this urn and this jug. I am going to cover up this food before I go, so if you are hungry, please just help yourself. If I am late back for some reason, then help yourself to the water." When she had gone out, Sri Thakurji did exactly as she had told him. If If he was hungry, he helped himself to whatever he wanted with his own hands and drank whatever he wanted to. When she got back, she would look into the water vessels to see if he had had something to drink, just making sure that he was not thirsty nor hungry. Only then would she be content. When she slept, she would keep a cot at the head of her cot, so very close to her, where Shitakuji would sleep. Thus he was close to her at all times. Once 2 cats had come in under the cots, and a few hours into the night began to fight. Shitakuji got scared. The Kshatrani shouted at the cats. She reassured Shitakuji, telling him not to be afraid. She shouted at the cats, telling them that her Shitakuji was scared, but they would not stop fighting. She wrapped her Shitakuji in her arms. Scared of the cats, Shitakuji also began to hug her more and more tightly. He kept saying how frightened he was of those horrible cats, and she would hug him closely and shout insults at the cats to get them out. She threatened to beat them with sticks the next morning. "You are scaring my son today. Tomorrow I will make you understand." She went on insulting them thus and hugging her Shitakuji more and more closely. She still would not get up off her cot, however, because she did not want to have to leave him alone, because he was afraid and the cats would not stop fighting. He kept saying, "Oh, I am so scared of these cats," and hugging her tightly. Then she said, "Oh, Lalji Maharaj, you killed Putana and you killed many other big demons. You are not afraid of them, so why are you scared of 3 cats now?" As soon as she said this, Sri Thakurji moved away from her and said, "Lady, up till now we had a super relationship. Now we no longer have that relationship." From that day on, he would not speak to her. Bhav Prakash. Why? For as long as she considered him to be her child, Sri Thakurji fulfilled that role. When she regarded him as a great and glorious Lord, then he became just that. When his glory took precedence, then the affection disappeared. Got an uninterrupted recording today. This is continuing with the story of the Kshatrani. Bhav Prakash. Why? For as long as she considered him to be her child, Sri Thakurji fulfilled that role. When she regarded him as a great and glorious Lord, then he became just that. When his glory took precedence, then the affection disappeared. He was her boy as long as she had that attitude of pure affection. He loved her back in the same way that she showed him her love. Sri Thakurji does as the devotee tells him to. The Lord depends on a devotee's love. Sri Thakurji loves the devotee with the same kind of sentiment as they give to him. When one regards him as a great and powerful God, then it is that form that he assumes. Then he neither speaks nor interacts with anyone. Therefore he stopped talking to the Kshatrani. Part 1 continued. After this, the Kshatrani implored the Lord and begged him humbly, and many, many days after that he did start to speak with her again. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that the Lord is always pleased with humility. Humility can wipe out offences. This is the power of humility. Therefore, Vaishnava should always serve the Lord with humility. Thus concludes Varta 83, the story of the Kshatrani girl who was a vessel of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava to whom Sri Thakurji granted his direct experience. There is no end to her tale. Shall Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing tomorrow with Varta 84. आज के आनंद की जय हो. जय जय श्री राधे.